Hi there, everyone. My name is Lynn Blackwell-Prabish. I am here to talk to you about ambient, natural, and existing light, or shooting on manual. Let's give it a try. This is who I am, what I've done. It tells you all my degrees, awards, all those things. It doesn't tell you what I love to photograph. My passion was babies, headshots, commercial, and photographing a pregnant woman's changes in her body, and then the new baby. There are so many different things you can do in the realm of photography. There's a lot out there to choose from. George Eastman said, "Light makes photography. Embrace light. Admire it. Love it. But above all, know it. And know it for all you're worth, and you will know the key to photography." He's right. Ambient light refers to the natural light already present in a scene before you set up all your fancy lighting equipment. Other names we could call it are available light, natural light. Ambient light is generally soft and diffused. It can come from the sun, moon, streetlights, windows, and other sources. Ambient light can also be a very hard light, like noon, lunchtime. Not impossible to get awesome photographs from, though. You just got to know what you're doing and practice. I asked Siri, what's the definition of natural light? I like to check all my definitions before I go out and tell everyone this is this and this is that. So anyway, I gave Siri her chance, and this is what she said. Yes, our little Siri has a drinking problem. This is what she gave me as a definition of natural light. I love it, actually. I think it's really funny. Look closely. That's what she said. Practice, patience, persistence, permission, and passion. Yes, all of this makes for one great photographer, or many great photographers. Practice, patience, persistence, permission, and passion. Very, very important. For every light, there's a shadow. At least most lights, the shadows, you can see them. They're somewhere. Keep looking. Fill light is sometimes handy, but not always necessary. Learn to see that light. Go out there and without the camera in front of your face, start looking at the light, how it reacts on different surfaces, where it's reflected. Look at it and learn from it. As the sun sets lower on the horizon, it also gets softer. It's a pleasing enough light to use either as a main light or an edge light. My favorite light is the light on a rainy day before or after a rain, or a cloudy day. When the sun starts to go behind a cloud, look at how it affects the colors. It makes them more beautiful, more saturated, and it's just awesome. Go out there and take a look. Learn to see that light and read that light. This is a senior I did, and she's a beautiful lady, but I had to soften it a bit. My camera gave a nice sharp image, and none of us women like to see ourselves that sharp. We know we're beautiful, but we like to be a little softer looking. I did use a flash. You can't tell, because if you could see that I used a flash in this photograph of a person, well, in my opinion, that's not a very good photograph. When I use a flash, I don't want people to see the flash. I don't want my subject to all of a sudden glow like there's something wrong. I want her just to pop out and be beautiful. Now, what did I meter? I metered the medium tones. Everything I shoot is manual. What's the medium tone in this photograph? The medium tone is the medium green. Yep. Not the dark green, the shadow green, the bright green, the medium green. That's what I metered off of. The flash I used, I put a little honeycomb on it to keep the flash directly towards her and not let it spread out. And as you can see, this was taken after the rain. This shows you what I decided to photograph her at, an ISO of 250. 60 millimeter, I used a 24-70 zoom lens. I shot at f10 at 1/60th. She wasn't moving, so shutter speed wasn't important. As far as my aperture, the important part of that photograph was her. Not everything around her, her. How do I shoot? What do I shoot in, RAW or JPEG? Actually, I use both. All my cameras have double slots for 2 cards. I am what you call a backup person. Oh, Lord. Everything needs a backup, makes me feel good. If one card fails, hopefully the other card will not. Know your camera. Don't let it become an obstacle between you and recording what you see. Learn how to see the light. Get off auto. Shoot manual. Travel light so you can enjoy yourself and you're not hauling around a ton of equipment. And learn more about your lens, shutter speed, depth of field, and ISO. The lenses that you use, each are a little different and each have a little bit different effect on your subject. If you don't have Photoshop, you don't have Lightroom, don't worry about it. Learn to play with all the buttons on your camera. Read the instruction book. Use the light meter in your camera or use a regular light meter. Meter at the medium color or value. You can meter for effect or meter for the perfect shot, which could also be an effect of the perfect shot. Off-camera flash or reflector, yes, I have both. I use both. Fast lens or a really big shiny reflector. I prefer the fast lens, a 1.4, 1.8, 2.8. Those are my favorites. This is my camera bag. 2 cameras, 2 lenses, 24-70 or 7200. If I'm going on vacation, I like to take a 100 millimeter macro, and I like to take a fisheye for kicks, just for fun. On a vacation, I take a converter. I have a 600 EXRT flash and foot. I have a speed light transmitter because I very seldom photograph with that flash on my camera. It's always off. I use a mag bounce on my flash because I don't like to direct hard light directly at a person. I like to soften it a little bit. I always carry a 22-inch PhotoFlex soft gold white reflector. My instruction books are always in my bag. And Magmod makes a little handle that goes on the bottom of your flash so you can hold it without any awkwardness. Lens wipes, cloths, batteries, extra cards, body caps. Oh yes, I always lose camera lens caps. camera cords, yep. And a little bit different from other people, I carry a 9x13 light board in my camera bag. There's a smaller one. I think you can get an 8x10 too. But I carry it for when I'm shooting macro. I can lay a bloom on the light board, adjust the light under it, so the light's now shining up through the flower, the leaf, whatever it is I'm photographing in macro. And I can get different effects with using different powers of the light. It's just a fun thing I carry with me. This is Magmod. I have all this stuff. I love all this stuff. I like to play with things, but Magmod I take seriously. Lightweight, because I'm 76 years old. I mean, I'm from the age of film, and this digital stuff is really cool. I like it because it's all magnetic. There's no twisting, putting wires through, stepping on something to get it to punch into another hole. No, this stuff pops open, closes down so easily, and snaps on magnetically. Love it. Okay, get it right the first time. You are digital, and it costs you nothing to experiment. Play the guessing game and challenge yourself. You have a digital camera. Use it to help yourself learn how to read light. In the old days, we had film. Yep, it was expensive, and you didn't know you had it correct unless you were so sure of yourself. This is a little thing that always comes in everyone's instruction books. Tells you about aperture, f-stops, whatever you want to call them. Shutter speed shows you the effect. ISO, once again, it shows you the effect. The higher you go, the more noise you get. In the old days, we called it grain. Now they call it noise. It's okay. Your camera still works the same as it did with a film camera. It just has a lot more options. Here is a very nice depth of field diagram that Vinnie Colucci let me borrow. I love it. It is pretty much straightforward. You might want to stop and photograph this. Take a screenshot. It would be Shift Command 3, Shift Control 3. Give it a try. You can pause if you want on anything in here until you get the shot that you need. If you can't work the Shift Command 3 or Shift Control 3, use your telephone. It'll work. Take notes digitally. Another little card that is very, very interesting, helping show you more about the effects on what everything does. Another one to take a good screenshot of. Be my guest. Go ahead and pause this and take your photograph. This is really what you need to see. This one is very important. Take a screenshot of this and then cut out the aperture, cut out the shutter speed, and those two items are what you're going to use to show you how many choices you have when you're photographing. Because when you get a meter read off your subject, off the medium light, the medium color, your camera's going to tell you, or your light meter's going to tell you what it suggests for an f-stop and what it suggests as a shutter speed. Take those two strips and line up those two pieces of information. And then everything else you see on that strip, beyond and before, are also the same unit of letting light in, but having a different effect. So once you line up the first two original pieces of data that you've been given, Look at where everything else lines up with those two pieces of paper. Now you have choices. Now you can see, oh, yes, that's right. I want a higher shutter speed, so I need a different f-stop. It will show you what you need. Very important. A pause now is great for this. Take a screenshot, camera, whatever it is, print it out, cut it up, and use it. Keep it in your camera bag. It is so handy. Noon or midday or mid-morning, the worst time to shoot, but you have no choice. Open shade, sun behind is an edge light. The use of reflector, fill light, or soft flash. I don't want to lose the look of natural light. There are so many ways to get that shot. Use the light and see what you get. Experiment, remember, it doesn't cost you anything. Okay, here we are. It's noon. You can sort of tell by the light under his chin. What I do is I move them to the edge of light. That's right. What is the edge of light? The edge of light, to me, photographing this young man, was having him stand at the edge of the shadow from the tree I had him by to where the sun met the shadow. That's my edge. I did use a reflector because I wanted to soften the shadows on his body. But Mother Nature loves to play with photographers. She passes around her colors, reflects all kinds of different things on us, trying to give us a hard time. She's just having fun with us. So as you can see, he has a bit of a green tint. Grass really reflects back onto your subject. Keep an eye out for it. Sometimes a flash can remove it perfectly, and sometimes Mother Nature can be a bit of a, give you a hard time. This is what I did with that photograph. First, I flipped it. Yeah, you're not supposed to flip your subject. In the old days, the subject should have been facing the other direction so that when you came into the photograph like reading, you came right into your subject. So nice. My background was a photograph that I had in my infrared file, or I should say my morgue file, excuse me. I had infrared in my morgue file from another park. The sun rays were also in my morgue file. And I did a lot of dodging and burning because I wanted those sun rays to look like they were coming through the forest in front of behind the trees. So, yep, there was a lot of dodging and burning there. But as you can see, his background, the forest, is infrared. He is a black and white. Some of the foreground is also infrared. I had a lot of fun with this one. This was what I call awesome. What's the difference between a black and white and infrared? Here's two photographs to help you with that. The trees are infrared. See what the infrared filter does to those trees? Wherever the sun hits it the hardest, the leaves turns a beautiful white. And as the sun hits the others a little less hard, they become more gray. You still have all your gray values here, but they're just sort of flipped. The next one, a flower, you can see the leaves at the base there are not white. They are just grays. The flower itself was pink, and as I turned it to a black and white, it turned white. It was very pretty. I love it. But if I had shot this in infrared, the leaves at the base would also be white. So that's the difference between infrared and black and white. Another young man, he was running a vendor booth, and he graciously said I could photograph him. And of course, where are you going to photograph him? You can't take your whole studio to a powwow. So we stepped over into the parking lot behind his booth, and I found a place where the light coming through the trees must have been about 3 o'clock. You could see I'm using the light coming through the trees as an edge light. I also have a reflector that's standing up against my knees, reflecting upon him so I can bring some light to the front part of his body. That's what I used. I didn't have a flash that day. This is a photograph I ended up with. Doesn't that look so awesome? Actually, he won me an award of most prestigious. I kept the color. I muted it down a little bit. And the background, oh my goodness, there must be 4 or 5 photographs in that background. One shooting down the front street in front of our house. One is mountains, one is some trees. And I just kept, I call it smushing, wrong word. You're blending, you're using all your blend modes to put all these photographs together to get the look you want. I also used a texture screen on top of them. And I used another texture screen on top of everything, but I made sure I took the texture screen off of his face, his hair, and different parts of his regalia that I wanted it to show up. It helped unite the whole photograph, the background, and the subject. Now, this young man was the flute player for a powwow. I think this is at the same powwow. And of course, as you can tell, the light is probably, looks like it's about noon. So I let it hit the backside of him. And as you can see, once again, he's standing at the edge of light, where the shadow meets the sunlight. I used my reflector because I wanted to bounce some more light into him, show off that gigantic flute. I also had a handheld light that I had my husband hold off to the right side and point it towards his headpiece. Lots of feathers. I needed some rim light on those feathers. This is what I ended up with. Again, yes, I flipped my photo. And the background, oh my goodness, that background is something else. That background is a mixture of an infrared, some other color photographs, you name it. I blended them together. I have fun doing that. Unfortunately, this man passed away before he saw this finished portrait. Okay, another one for you. Subject placement. Yep. All kinds of people everywhere. This is at Red Clay State Park. I couldn't find a spot, but we just decided to go out into the middle and photograph her anyway. She was such a pretty, pleasing, pleasant lady. How am I using the light? You got it. I put her on the edge where the sun meets the shadow. I had a small reflector up against my body and let Mother Nature do the rest of reflecting. As you can see, there was gravel there, so I got a nice natural reflection up on her. Nothing green, just a nice natural reflection. You don't have time for a setup, so you have to use Mother Nature as your lightroom, as your studio. Well, I used every single photograph I took of her that day. And I also made sure I used complementary colors. I also had to make sure that she wasn't floating. That beautiful feather she holds, I took it and positioned it at her feet so it looks like she's standing on her feather. She has a base. She is grounded. And if you look real close into the background, once again, I have all those photographs blended. And you can see her standing. You can see part of her scarf. And she actually already had complementary colors in her regalia. So it was easy to make her pop. Beautiful, beautiful lady. And to help you know what complementary colors are, here's the RGB color wheel. A complementary color is a color that is directly across from it. Also works with the regular artist color wheel. Whatever color is directly across, they are complementary colors. Okay, let's read some light. Can you see it? This is in Chattanooga at the pavilion. They have many, many events there. And of course, tons of people standing around, no space to set up all your equipment. Nope. What I had was my camera and my flash. So I asked her if she would just stand there. We found a nice place where it seemed the light was coming in pretty evenly from all sides. We posed her, and then I asked her if she would just slowly turn in a circle, but staying in the same spot. And she did. This was my favorite pose, favorite spot that I photographed her in. We then took her outside. As you can see, the day was a bit cloudy, hazy, and when we photographed her outside, it just wasn't as beautiful as it was inside. I mean, let's face it, look at the lighting on that regalia. She is beautiful. I did not use the reflector. I only used my camera. I did not use a flash. The lighting in that place was perfect. This is the finished photograph. I generally use Photoshop. I love Photoshop. And I really didn't have a lot to do with her. She was already pretty perfect, pretty well lit. So all I needed was something to get rid of all those people in the background and make her look more like we did this in the studio, all special. Well, back to the morgue file. I found a backdrop that I had painted, and I photographed it, and I put in my morgue file. So I took it, used it as the backdrop, made sure there was a shadow down by her feet so she didn't look like she was, floating again, had to ground her. And then I thought, it's still missing something. I thought, an American eagle, yes. Went and painted an American eagle, photographed it, and then put its shadow onto the backdrop. When I don't have what I need, I paint it, draw it, photograph it, and add it. That's what I do. Anyway, I used a texture screen over the backdrop, and then I used another texture screen over the whole photograph. And of course, I took it off on her face and different highlights on her regalia. And once again, these texture screens help me to make everything knit itself together so it blended well. Another day, another powwow at the pavilion in Chattanooga. I asked this young man from the first day of the powwow if I could photograph him. And he was busy that day, so he says, how about tomorrow? He says, I'll come early and you can photograph me then. I was so excited. This is so cool. His regalia was totally awesome. And I saw him dancing the day before, and wow, it was so cool. So, this one, yes, I used my flash on some photographs. Most of the time, I was taking pictures so fast, the flash didn't really have time to reboot itself. But it was totally awesome. I just wanted enough flash so we wouldn't lose his face. I needed a high shutter speed, a fast shutter speed, so we could stop the movement of his regalia. And as you can see in the top left, there was a sunlight coming through the top of the building and caught him. And I thought, oh, cool, cool, cool. So we had a lot of photographs of him. The young man was so nice, and I thanked him. He was such a gentleman, and he was only about 6'5". Very nice young man. Okay, so I needed a fast lens. Yes. I needed a lens for less movement on my part, which means I needed a lens. The zoom didn't let me go crazy. I hate it when I have the option of zooming way in or way out. I used a surrounding light. My ISO was important. My shutter speed, very important. My depth of field, not so important. I didn't care about what was around him. I only cared about him. And once again, totally manual. This is another photograph that I did with the photographs of him. And the only difference between these two is one has a texture screen over the background. Made a difference. I think my favorite would be this one. But these are very interesting. It's neat to see what a texture does that you didn't expect. At that same powwow, this man was standing there, Native American, and he had the almost awesome regalia accessory. And I asked him if I could photograph it, so I took him over to the corner where the sun was, and I used a reflector, and I photographed all these beautiful feathers. I can only imagine how much work that was. Most of the Native Americans do create their own regalia. I found him again at another powwow, and he was dancing. So awesome. As you can see, this is one of those cloudy days, bright but cloudy. And as he was dancing, he came down to this one pose that I caught. I thought, yes, there's got to be something I can do with that. But look at all the green grass. Oh, yeah. I had green reflections on him like you wouldn't believe. That's going to take some work. This was my final piece. If you look real close, you can see the first photograph of the regalia on the back side of him is very, very deep into it. The other photographs were him dancing at a powwow. And then that one pose that I caught, so beautiful. And I had to work a little bit hard to get the green off of the white in his regalia. When you go to a powwow, the Native Americans, they're not out there dancing just for your pleasure. They compete. So it's not nice to interrupt them. You need to stay out of the way and remember your manners. Morgue file. Oh, yeah. You hear me say this, talk about it a lot. My morgue file. When I was younger, I had a morgue file for painting, drawing. I would keep things in a folder Oh, this is cool. This is pretty. Oh, look at that. It's a picture of a windmill. Maybe someday I'll paint that. In my photography morgue file, I have ideas, same stuff, there could be another windmill. Ooh, that forest looks cool. Oh, hey, I might be able to use those sun rays sometime. I'll use those. So that's what my morgue file is. Pictures of mountains, trees, people, you name it. Okay, here we go. Bright cloudy day and a baseball cap. I used the reflectors, and I also used reflections off the cars in the parking lot. I got a great photograph of this man, but he had a baseball cap on. I was so excited that he was going to pose for me that I didn't even see the baseball cap. But he called me one day and said, "Hey, Lynn," he says, "I love the photograph that you did of me." He says, "But I'm wearing a baseball cap." I said, "Yeah, I know." He says, "My dad loves it. But," he says, "I'm going to be head man at the next powwow, so I need a more correct photograph." So I met him, and we photographed him again on a day that wasn't too shiny, too bright. We used the trees, the shadows, until we got about the same lighting effect as the first one. And we photographed just his head and his regalia. So now I had a head, another photograph with a guy wearing a baseball cap. So I changed out his heads, went into my morgue file, and found a whole bunch of cool backdrop stuff. So I put the Smokies behind him, or wait a minute. Oh, that might be Lookout Mountain. Anyway, we created this photograph. He used it as his advertisement headshot, what he needed for the next powwow. He came out kind of cool. As you can see, there are texture screens on this. A big one over that mountain in the back to calm it down a bit. And then I put another texture screen over the whole front of him. Of course, taking it off, any highlights, and on his face. Came out really nice. He's no longer wearing a baseball cap. Okay, why am I speaking on light? To get you to get off of auto and shoot manual. Remember, you have the freedom to practice more than we did back in the old days because it's not costing you anything. You don't pay for film, you don't pay for developing. All you have to do is delete and shoot again. So cool. Find the good light. I love the magnets of Magmod, a fast lens, f4, 2.8, and bump that ISO up and down. Play with it. Always use your brain and use what you have learned to make your art better. That's right, you're an artist. Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep. Scott Adams said that. When I taught the college, sometimes my students would come up to me and say, "Oh, here's my assignment, but I made a mistake. I did this and I should have done that." And I'd look at it and says, "Why are you telling me?" I says, "For me, looking at your photograph, unless your mistake is totally a big boo-boo," I said, "this looks pretty cool to me. But now that you've told me you've made an error, I will have to lower your score." And they look at me like, "What?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "The mistake you made was pretty cool." And so they learn to look at their work a little different. Remember, think of yourself as an artist. The camera and other equipment you are using are your creation tools. And don't tell anybody when you've made a boo-boo. If you would like to see more of my work, this is my website address. I hope you've learned something from this video. I did. I learned how many times I had to start over and do it again. But enjoy yourself, and please feel free to screenshot or photograph anything in the video. Enjoy and Keep photographing and keep reading that light. Thank you. Goodbye.